Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a fun one as I've just picked up my Oase ScaperLine 90. This is the biggest tank that I've ever owned and it's the biggest tank I've ever scaped, so yeah, really looking forward to it. But it's a really nice setup. It's got the soft touch doors which are really nice, however one of them is faulty. The mechanism doesn't seem to be working, which is a little bit frustrating, but hey ho, I'll just attach another one to it. It's also got like a pull-out drawer for your, like a pull-out stand for your filter, which is a really nice feature because it just makes accessing it and maintenance a little bit easier. And the little bar that I just pulled out, that would normally go on the side, so if you have an internal filter you would put that bar in the side, and if you've got an external filter like what I'm going to be using, it comes with these like two little extra chocks as you can see here. And they're like magnetic, so they just like click into place, but it obviously leaves the little gap for your filter pipe, so it just makes things like neater. It's just a really nice and well thought out cabinet, which is kind of what made me want to go for this one. The tank's got the mitered glass edging, which again is just a really nice feature, and then it has the Oase logo etched on the side as opposed to the front. So yeah, it looks like a really well thought out and really well built cabinet, so I'm quite happy with it. I'm very happy with it. So now it's time to destroy the front room. So as you can see, it's a mess. It's really stressing me out, but this big patch right here, this is mold because the other tank was sat on some wood because it was a little bit wider than the cabinet it was sat on, and the damp has obviously caused it to get moldy, so that could have been an absolute disaster. So this room at the minute is currently a bit of a mess. Taking down tanks is just the worst job ever, and it always puts me off buying new tanks or rescaping tanks, but it is looking a little bit better today. Now if anyone's interested in where the fish are and where the tank is, the old tank is currently on the floor running exactly as it was. The last time I did a rescape, which on this tank, I put all the fish into a big plastic tub. The reason I didn't do it this time is because I just didn't want to stress them, and I just thought I'll keep them in the same environment that they used to. Probably going to dark start this tank, but we'll see. We'll see, because I'm waiting on a hanging bracket for the light, so there's not going to be a light on it. However, I have just tested the light, which is over there, and it's like the sun, it's blinding. It's a really good light. So yeah, fish are just in here. This is just running. That click, by the way, was my knees. I'm not 60. The tank is running without CO2 and without a light. It'll be fine. I'm probably not going to be using much of the plants in there anyway. I just kind of want a fresh clean start with all new stuff. So yeah, that's where the fish are, and they're just kind of none the wiser. Getting that tank on the floor gave me a hernia. It was really heavy. We did debate moving the room around. I apologise for the mess everywhere. We did debate, like, so obviously the big tank is in this corner, which is where the other one was, and it is obviously a lot bigger, so we were actually debating putting it there, moving them there and them over there, but it was just, I think for the very little gain that we'd get, because we were worried about space, it just wasn't going to be worth it. And it's not like it's bad, and this side of the room is the most unused anyway, and there's still like a kind of clear walkway, so it's just more when people sit down and they bang chairs into things, because obviously this room was meant to be a dining room and now it's pretty much become my aquascaping gallery. For anyone who's eagle-eyed, I did used to have the ADA Balance of Nature poster up there, but it just started looking too fussy now. We've got a lot of stuff going on, so we're just trying to keep it simple. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, this is like a hobby, but it's almost become like a centerpiece in the house, and I like, we want it to look nice as well. It's almost become a decoration, but I don't mean like I'm using the fish or the animals as a decoration. I'm trying to give them the best sort of care and life possible. So it's kind of just getting that balance between being able to provide these, you know, habitats and these environments for the fish and the things to be healthy, but also having a nice living space. So yeah, there was a lot of debate, but I think we're happy with it in that corner. It's surprising how much bigger that tank is. See, this tank here is 60 by 40 by 40. and that's 90 by 45 by 45. And I really was like, it's like 30 centimeters. It's not really going to be that much bigger. It is surprising how big it is. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I'm glad. I'm just intimidated by it. I've never scaped anything this big before, so it's certainly going to be interesting. I do want to kind of scape it as soon as possible because I do just want to get things moving. So for part of this video, the light isn't going to be on the aquarium. As I say, we thought we could hang it from the ceiling, and when it said that it came with a hanging kit, I thought it meant a hanging kit that you could hang from the ceiling, but it isn't. It's a hanging kit to hang from a bracket, which I didn't order. So now I have placed an order for the hanging kit because when we felt the weight of the light, I do not trust that I don't trust that I could hang it from the ceiling straight, never mind stable. And yeah, we could get someone else to do it. I probably would get someone else to do it, but I don't think our ceiling's gonna. I would just have this fear that I'm just gonna come in and it's just like crashed into the tank and the house is on fire. So yeah, we're gonna just get the brackets, I think, and do it that way. Well, I've ordered them, but yeah, for part of the build, there's not gonna be a light above it, so I'll do my best to like illuminate it so you can actually see what we're doing. So yeah, I think that gives you the behind the scenes and the background info, but you're not really interested in that. I'm sure you're just here to watch to see how I scape this thing or how badly I mess it up. But yeah, let's get into the build. Just actually, you know, before we do, I'll just give you a rundown of what we're using. So these are just things that we've been buying over the course of like knowing we were going to do this. So at this point I'm thinking I'm going to need more bags of aquarium soil, but we've got 3.5. So I'm just going to use the tropical soil because I've always used it and yeah, it's always provided good results. However, I am going to use some power sand on the bottom because I've done that in 2 of my low-tech 45Ps before and the plant growth's been amazing. So yeah, underneath is going to be the power sand, on the top is going to be the soil, and then I might use some powder on top of that as well. Sand, I'm probably going to mix the La Plata and the Colorado sand together, and we're going to be using some of the 88 aqua gravel. We did get some of this, not because we're going to use it, but because it was on offer. Don't know what it is, but it's an 88 aqua soil. It's a very fine powder. It's kind of brown. It's called Malaya. I need to read into why it's a thing. We'll put some tropical nutrition capsules at the bottom using the moss glue to secure everything, and these are the shades for the Chihiros light, because if you look at it you'll go blind. It is so bright, and the interesting thing is, I'm just going to zoom out, this tank is 90 centimeters. The Chihiros light is only 45 centimeters wide, and I was thinking, how is this going to illuminate a 90 centimeter tank? There's going to be dark spots at the edges. But we've just kind of held it above the tank and it lights the entire street up. Never mind the tank. So I think we're going to be safe, because I was worrying thinking that we were going to have to buy 2 and they are not a cheap light. So and then I was thinking, should I have just got like the ones that sit across the top, like the WRGB ones? But now that I've seen it lit up, I'm not worried, and I'm quite looking forward to actually seeing it in position. So yeah, that is the state of things at the minute. I'm probably just gonna go right into chucking soil in and playing with the wood. Oh, the wood. The wood is down here in a heap, and yeah, it's in a heap. It's river wood. It's like probably a bit more, it's just like a bog wood, but probably a little bit nicer and a little bit more expensive. And the rock is like a Frodo stone or an elderly stone. I don't know if they're like the same thing or very, very similar. So we've got a few of those, but the rock in the old tank is the same. So if I need to, I'll just take some out of there as well. And I've got other bits of bogwood and some like old manzanita wood that would probably blend into that if I needed to add more wood, because it's all fun and games getting a big tank, but getting the stuff to scape the big tank soon adds up. I'm dreading, I have not even thought about plants yet. I'm dreading how many plants I'm going to need and how much that's going to cost. But anyway, I've talked long enough. Let's get into the actual build. So if you stuck around this long, thank you. But yeah, if you just want to skip to the build video, I don't blame you. I've rambled a lot. Yeah, so as mentioned, I don't have a light, so I apologise if this isn't the most illuminated build video, but I'll do my best to show you everything that I'm doing. But to start with, I am using a power sand by ADA. This is basically just like volcanic rock mixed with various things. I think it's got tourmaline and charcoal and back to 100, and then I'm also adding in some Tropica nutrition capsules. Just I really want this to have like a really good substrate, really good base layer. And then on top of that, I'm using some black lava soil from Aquaforest, I think this is. It's a lot cheaper than the power sand by ADA, and I think it's probably quite a similar product, but I'm just using it to sort of bulk up the background a little bit, so I didn't have to use as much aqua soil, but also it's got like beneficial properties as well. And I'm just testing the wood to see which way I want to put it in, because it's quite an uneven piece, so it's going to require like a thick substrate to sort of keep it balanced and wedged into. I'm using Tropica soil, and I think in total I used about 1.5 bags of the 9 litres, so like 12-13 litres of aqua soil. I did buy 3 bags because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the foreground, whether or not it was going to be carpet or sand. But yeah, I think I overbought in this instance. So yeah, I'm just going in with the wood. I have kind of had a play around with the wood on the floor to try and see how it would kind of come together and what kind of composition I would create, but it's always totally different going like from a dojo into the tank or from the floor into the tank. But I kind of seem to just do triangle compositions. My brain works in triangles, so there's no surprise that we are going for a triangle composition. So I'm just kind of working on the left hand side and just trying to get that together, because that's kind of where the focal point is going to be, like that heavy side of the triangle. And so I'm just trying to use that big piece of wood to prop up the like opposing piece, the piece of wood that's going to go in the opposite direction to everything else, because it just, if you read sort of like aquascaping guidelines, it's kind of good to have something that causes tension or like breaks the flow. So yeah, I'm trying to really put my aquascaping skills to the test with this scape, and kind of like try and give it my all. So I've been looking at other scapes and just sort of like reading up on things and looking at IAPLC type scapes, although they're a lot more diorama based than sort of nature style, which I do much prefer, like the natural classic nature style. So that's what we're going to be going for with this aquascape. So this piece of wood that I've just put in the back, I'm not totally happy with it, so I do want it there, and I want to put it, because it's smaller than everything else, it just kind of creates some like distance. And then this piece of wood isn't quite right, it's kind of breaking the floor. As you can see, it's got like this overarching triangle. So yeah, still sort of tweaking and fiddling with it at the minute, but at this point I'm quite happy with the direction that it's going in. So yeah, it's probably taken me altogether, I think it took about, well, I did it over the course of 3 days, but a good sort of 5 or 6 hours to be really sort of happy with this scape. And so yeah, it's the one that I've kind of put the most effort into and the most time. So at this point I'm just adding more rocks to the base. Again, this is to help weigh things down, and also to create sort of one side heavier than the other, to sort of help accentuate that focal point. And yeah, just to make sure that it makes good contact with the wood, because I have a feeling this would probably try and float, so it's a lot of super gluing. But at this point I think I've got something that I'm quite happy with. There's still, I want to put a piece of wood in that kind of left gap. I just haven't found anything like suitable yet. But yeah, for the most part at this point I was quite happy with it. It was just tweaking this piece of wood that just wasn't sitting properly, and it was just a case of like walking out the room, coming back, and yeah, doing this over a few hours. But then the big question now was sand or carpet, because I had to make a decision on the foreground, so I started doodling pictures on my phone. So I went between sand, carpet, or a little bit of both. But yeah, I pondered on that for about a day. So whilst I was debating what to do, I figured I would just glue everything down. So I'm using the usual method of like cotton pads and some super glue, and I really went to town with the super glue, because I think I used two of those moss tubes of it, because I just really didn't want this to float, especially after how much time and effort I'd put into it. So it was just a case of what I always do, put it in the contact points, load it with super glue. Only with this scape I was a little bit more meticulous, and also I like sprinkled soil over the connection points. I don't always do that, but I just wanted to hide them, just really wanted to make this scape the best it could be. Anyway, I eventually decided on the foreground, which was soil. No, it wasn't, it was sand. So I had to kind of block up all the gaps, because there is a lot of gaps, and if I'd have had my mind made up earlier, I probably could have scaped this better. The right hand side is going to be problematic because I can't stop that soil. But yeah, I stuffed it with filter floss, and then I figured I would just go in with gravel first and try and cap everything that I can, especially the left and right side where there was nothing to kind of stuff with filter floss. So it was just a case of like laying the gravel on top and then brushing it back to kind of create a barrier and to kind of try and lock it in place. Now I imagine I am going to have soil rolling forward at least for the first few months until the plants root, and then I think once the plant roots are holding it all back, it should be a little bit easier to maintain. So I did use quite a lot of gravel. This could be a good thing because it could house beneficial bacteria, but it could also mean that a lot of detritus and stuff gets stuck in it. So yeah, we'll find out how that went. As for the sand, I decided to mix both Colorado and La Plata sand together. I love both of the sands, so I just thought I'm just going to mix them together. But La Plata sand's quite white, and I find it goes quite dirty quite easy. And Colorado sand's got that warmth to it, so just thought I'd just mix them together. It creates a really nice colour, so I just kind of did half a small bag of Colorado sand and then some La Plata sand, mixed it together. And you get this really natural looking colour. So yeah, that's not something I've done before, and it just makes it different to all the other scapes in the room. I don't know what it is about putting your hand in sand, but it has this like really nice therapeutic feeling. I just kept wanting to do that. So yeah, now it was just a case of laying in the sand. Obviously the border between the gravel and the sand is quite harsh, so I kept going in with like a brush and brushing it in, and then adding a bit more gravel, adding a bit more sand. And it just kind of went back and forth like that for a while to add detail. At this point I'm still debating adding some smaller grained gravels, like the Hugo Comishi River gravel, I think it is, or maybe even some Rio Zingu, or whether to keep it kind of clean with this just sort of like two-tone mix of gravel and then sand. I probably will add some smaller details, but I haven't done it yet. I might do it at a later date once I'm happy that the soil and everything isn't going to start rolling forward, and that the gravel isn't just collecting loads of like crap essentially. So yeah, this will probably be an ever-evolving scape, as most scapes are, but at this point I'm quite happy with just the sand and the ADA gravel, as it's a really nice gravel. It's got lots of different colours in it, and it just kind of blends really well with this elderly stone as well. So as you can see, I'm just like brushing things in and then adding more sand and then adding more gravel. As I mentioned, it just makes things look more like naturally blended together. And this is the final hardscape. So as you can see, I've found a piece of wood to add to the left. It's not quite the angle I would have liked it at, as it's a little bit similar to the ones on the right, but it was kind of the only way I could make it fit and attach. But overall I'm really pleased with the hardscape. I do really love it. I don't know if that comes across as sounding quite big-headed. I really don't mean to. I put a lot of effort into it, and a lot of days of like hard work and sort of really trying to think about this. So yeah, I think it's possibly one of the best scapes I've done, between this and maybe the one that I did at Horizon Aquatics Gallery. So yeah, now it was time to fill. So I made a contraption, which is a pump in the sink, a hell of a long reel of hose, and then attached it to a like strainer, like an old one that I had kicking around. Put that into a little colander thing with a bag underneath just to try and stop the sand like blasting everywhere, and filled up pretty quickly. So I attached the filter onto it, my old filter. I also put some rocks on because I was scared that it was going to float. And now we're going to dark start it for a few weeks, so the only thing left to kind of put on is the CO2 and the light. I really hope you enjoyed this build video. There'll be a part 2 obviously with the planting, and thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you on the next one.